complete disagreement.
Yeah.
And making points where I'm like, well, I mean, how long have you been following me? Because if you disagree with this, you probably disagree with my whole philosophy. Like,
I get so surprised at the things people unfollow about. And I'm like, how long have you been around?
yeah, like this was the thing. This was the thing that did it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, why is my software is giving me problems today?
Uh-uh.
Uh,
And I will be right back.
yeah, take your time. All right, I guess we're live streaming. We're gonna the software is showing that we're not, but I did the check. We are, so as soon as Sarah gets back, we'll start the show. No big deal. We'll just fast forward it. All right. So my software is saying we're not live streaming, but when I check Facebook, we are. So we're gonna roll with what we have going on. It's happening. It's happening.
Awesome. Perfect.
So yeah, I'm gonna start off by saying, well, we have Sarrah Rose here. She is a sex coach, if you will. She runs tantric activation and probably a bunch of stuff I don't know about, because I was introduced to you via a text message. Hey, you should talk to this person, and I joined your program without seeing a website or anything. So I actually don't
Nice.
know. I don't have a full picture. I just know what I'm getting out of it, and so I want a little disclaimer here, as we're going to get into sensitive subject matter, and we're going to be talking about things that are sexual in nature. And what I already titled the show, I imagine we're going to go there, because this is one of the things that I've gotten out of doing your work, is improving sex life, improving performance, even without a partner. And in fact, especially without a partner. And that's something that whenever I previously thought about my sex life, I would be thinking about sex with people. So we're in quarantine right now, and for a lot of us, and I imagine there's a lot of people are going, oh, bummer, like I'm not having as much sex, or maybe I'm having sex with the same person all the time, and man, this is getting old because we're together all the time. I don't know what people are thinking. I just know what goes on in my head. So I thought it'd be really cool to bring Sarrah in to talk about how you can keep things interesting, even if you're by yourself. Like for me, I haven't had sex with a human being. It's been 6 months or longer, we'll say. And then I go into quarantine and I go, oh, I guess I'm really not having sex for a while. This is great. This is great. So this has been like it's been a gift in a lot of ways. So anyway, I want to set all this up and bring Sarrah in to talk about uh, what can we do as, because you work specifically with men. Do you work with women at all?
I do private coaching with women and with couples.
Got it. So I want to get into how is it that we can improve our sex life, even if we don't have a partner. And before we get into that, because that's the hook, that's where people are like, oh shit, I need to know how that works. Can you give us a quick bio on how you got into the position you're in, where you're teaching people these things?
Yeah, for me, it's been a long journey actually that started with yoga, and I followed the yogic path and ended up in India studying Tantra and became certified as a Tantra teacher there. I went back because I needed more. So I went to India twice and got additional certification. And then I became certified as a coach to actually be a sex, love, and relationship coach. And I specialized in men's sexuality and in Tantra in that program as well. So it's been a great journey. I started out coaching women primarily. Well, actually, first I was working with all genders, and then I moved into focusing on women. And the women kept saying to me, "Please, Sarrah, please work with the men." And so I looked at what was going on in society, and from my experiences, from experiences that other women were telling me they were having, it was really clear that it was time for there to be more champions for men, empowering men right now, because there's a lot that is actually trying to bring men down. And that's not good for any of us, right? Like strong women like myself, we're not attracted to men that are feeling disempowered. We're attracted to men that are strong and confident and like really doing amazing things in the world. And so I wanted to, what I noticed is in my own life, it was hard to find that type of guy and like really have great connection with him. And so I wanted to bring something to empower guys to find that confidence, which starts with sexual confidence. That, first and foremost is like that internal sexual drive. And then like, when a guy knows that he's amazing in bed, like that really stems into every other aspect of his life. And so I decided I was going to do it. There was an issue in society, there was a hole, and I was going to fix it.
What when men come to you, and I imagine like a lot of really good coaches, a lot of people come to you through referrals. It's like one guy comes in and goes, "Oh, I got really great results." That's what happened for me. My buddy, he's like, "Oh, I think you should check her out." I go, "Okay, let's do that. I'll just get on the phone. I'll see what's going on." And what I do know is, if I ever want to get better at something, I hire a coach.
Yes.
A lot of people go, "Oh, I'll read a dozen books first." I'm like, "Fuck that. Just get a coach," because that's where it's going to end up anyway.
Yeah.
Like reading a book is just to see if you actually want to dive into it. It happens with people in business all the time. It's like, "Oh, I read business books." I'm like, "Yeah, but do you have like a business coach?" And they go, "Well," I was like, "Well, that's indicative of the results you're getting."
Right.
So, so I know I was like, you know what? Sex is an area in which I want to improve. It's like there's a level of dissatisfaction that I had, and just I realized one day I was like, I haven't put much attention into it. I put a lot of attention into like physical health, put a lot of attention into business, you know, and things like communication. I put a lot of attention into that, like intimacy, but actually putting attention into like sex, and no, not a lot, not a lot. And all those things improve sex for sure, but going right after the meat of it, when guys come to work with you, what are some of their complaints? Some of the things they're struggling with that you get to help them with.
A lot of the time, guys come to me, they are, not in relationship and they want to be, or they're in relationship and they're not happy with the sex that they're having. Maybe they have come out of a relationship, they're, newly broken up or divorced or something, and they really feel like during the time they're in relationship, their sex life deteriorated. And they feel like maybe they lost their mojo, or they're like, they've lost some sexual confidence because of that. They feel like maybe it's their fault the relationship ended because the sex wasn't as good as it should have been, that type of thing. And they want to make sure that doesn't happen again going forward. Or guys have sexual dysfunction that they're struggling with. Many guys, like, they'll go to their doctor and their doctor's like, "Hey, this is all in your head. Go see a sex therapist, go see a sex coach," something like that. And so in those type of issues, I can help because the program does a lot around the psychological and emotional components of how we show up sexually. And So it's a mixed bag. Some people are like really interested in Tantra and they're super excited to learn the advanced tantric techniques and practices that you can't find in books. So it's different people, different things that they're looking for.
Yeah, my experience being in your program has been um, some of the concepts I had been introduced to because I had read David Data and I've read some Tantra. I've even done a couple tantric pujas, um, and it was like a nice introduction, but I didn't know how to keep up the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I go do this thing, or I get this concept. I'm going to use it when I use it. But one of the things really nice about your program is like there's this structure that is like, oh, I'm going to do this every day, or I'm going to do this at least 4 or 5 days a week, and it's 30 minutes, which is actually a challenge for me. But the it's really nice. It's because it's like, oh, I know what's getting me results. Like if I do this, the results are obvious. If you do these practices, it's just like working out. It's like, it may not be obvious the first week. You get in like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth week and go, oh, I didn't even know that you could feel like this. This is a different type of experience than what I was having before. I'm curious what you see in our culture as a whole, and where what do I have this picture of what the average American thinks good sex is. And my impression of what good sex is much higher than it used to be. I used to think good sex checked these boxes, but now I think about sex and I go, whoa, it's way more expansive and there's just a lot more there than I could have imagined 5 years ago. So where are people at currently and what's possible?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they'll look up you come across my site because they're looking for different sex positions or sex techniques. Like, how do I make her squirt? How do I give her an orgasm? How do I, go down on her? Things like that. And that is all fine and it's really important. But I like to think of those things as the basics, like when you like learning how to walk when it comes to sex. Like these are just things that you've got to know. And like, if you don't know that, you're basically like way down on the bottom of the totem pole as far as what it comes to what's the potential of sex. And then once you learn all of those things, like, yeah, I absolutely know how to make a woman squirt, know how to give her orgasms in all parts of her body, things like that, like no different sex positions, but like then expand. And that's what Tantra is. It's like going so far beyond. It's having sex with, like, not most people have sex with their mental body only because we're really in our head as a society. Like it's so hard to get out of our heads. And so like not most people they're not even in touch with the sensations that are happening in their body when they're having sex. And so when a guy ejaculates, like that will be an orgasmic experience for him, but it's more like a release. Like it feels good, it's a release, but it's not life changing in any way. Most women are not having orgasms that are changing their lives, like really shifting their perspective on themselves, on the universe, on their partner, things like that. And so that's what Tantra does. Like it's like literally going into altered states of reality together, like feeling like you're on a medicine journey, but you're not, like just using your breath and the intimacy of yourself or with your partner. And so it's like the baseline of what people think good sex is typically is like, oh, well, I can make her squirt. So, that was good sex. Or we had anal. That was great sex.
Or I could last a long time.
I could last a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not the 2-minute guy. So, but it's like, all right, no, we need to completely change the conversation of what good sex is.
Yeah. My experience of it is most people are operating from just the biological perspective, where there's the purpose of sex is to create offspring so that the human race can go on. That's pretty much, that's been the purpose of sex from a biological perspective. But then there's the purpose of sex from an energetic perspective, the expansion of consciousness, all these types of things. And the little bit of experience I've had with Tantra is the energetics that are involved, and the experiences I'm having there are make getting off as the goal seem really silly. And I remember the first time, it was years ago. I went to a one taste event, and it was, man, that was maybe 5 years ago. And the whole concept of being in touch with the moment and getting out of what was it? It was like I actually got present to enjoying the journey instead of focusing on some destination.
Yeah.
And I just broke down and cried on the way home, because I realized, I was like, oh, I've been doing sex that way for this long. I've been missing out on all this other. Um, and even though I've had that awareness for 5 years, it's something I'm still working towards. Like, I don't know if I'm working towards anything, but it's something I'm enjoying exploring.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's something like there actually really is a grief process that happens with people when they start experiencing this, because they realize how much they've missed out on. And it's interesting, and thank you for sharing that, because not a lot of people do, but it's like I went through that myself of like, wow, like so many years of denying my body the pleasure that is available and that I deserve to have, and that I've really truly craved to have for so long. And like now I finally get to experience it.
Yeah. Um, I've noticed through doing the practices that you have us do, um, that I experience a cap on my pleasure. So I've noticed I hit a point, and then my mind wants to come in with a thought. So
Hmm.
it's like I go, oh, it's around that same amount of, it's like around the same time period of time that I'm in the practice, and I go, oh, it's interesting. I'm bumping up against something. It's that amount of pleasure is triggering a an emotional response. It's triggering a thought to occur. It pulls my attention into things on. I noticed that when I hit a certain point, I start thinking about how I could be better
Hmm.
at other things in my life. It's like start thinking about business. I start thinking about my fitness. I was like, oh, this is funny. There's like there's still a piece in there that doesn't feel good enough. And it's like, oh, I can't enjoy this because I haven't earned it from being good enough in these other areas that I've created a lot of value.
Yeah.
Is that something that's common that you notice?
Yes. And so that's why we do a lot of work with the primal brain and seeding that we are worthy, that we are deserving of having this type of pleasure. And the open mouth inhale and exhale, the like going back to that breath will help you come back into your body again. So when those thoughts come up, acknowledge them, don't shame yourself or anything like that, let them be there, but then come back over and over to the sensations in your body. Because what happens is the primal brain is like our source of pleasure, but it's also the gatekeeper of our pleasure, because it's only concerned with survival and procreation. And so if for your entire life you've experienced a certain amount of pleasure, your primal brain is cool with that because it knows that you can survive it. But anything beyond that is like, well, why do you need that? Like, you're already surviving, like, so it's going to definitely put blocks up for you. And that's also why we use the visualization practices of like fully experiencing yourself in five senses reality through visualization, in the ultimate expansion of bliss that you're trying to get through, because then your primal brain, which doesn't differentiate between what is fantasy, what you're imagining, and what is actual reality. It's like, okay, I have survived this. This is okay. And it helps pave the way so you can break through those barriers. And then also using sound and movement to help you move through it as well. So it's a combination of a lot of different techniques that you come at the brain from different perspectives to help you expand and move through the limitations that are there just from conditioning and survival and all of that.
Yeah. Are there other areas like I mean, this sounds a lot like, self-limiting beliefs. There's a cap. I mean, I know this in business, there's certain numbers that as people approach them, it's like they can't let the business go beyond 100 grand a month. It's like, it's like they may get really close to it, but then they drop below it. And it's like, there's nothing special really about that number, except for your perception of what that number means. Like it means something. Mm-hmm. So is this a similar thing? Is like, oh, I'm bumping up against some ceiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's self-sabotage that happens over and over and over. So like, even if somebody in their cortex is thinking, I want to make $200,000 this year, if in their primal brain, they have these associations with $100,000 only being acceptable because their family of origin only ever made $100,000. And if they go beyond that, then they may no longer be accepted by their family of origin. And so like that tribe component is going to override whatever the cortex is thinking of, like, oh, I want to make 200,000, I want to make $1 million, whatever it is. And it's the same with sex. Like if you, in relationship also. So if your family of origin, if your mom and dad fought all the time in relationship, then that sense of belonging with them is going to carry over into your relationship. And you will often, you'll see that people will do the same in their own relationship because they're tied to their family of origin in that way. Like, okay, my parents fought all the time. If I have a really healthy, happy relationship, I'm not going to be able to identify with them anymore. And they will actually sabotage their relationship because of that. So that's another way of looking at it all.
Yeah. To me, it's another area of personal development. We can work on different areas for personal development. And what I have experienced is when I focus on one area, all the other areas, there's like a rising tide raises all boats situation. And it's cool to dive into one area over here. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm working on improving my sexual life, my sexual health. And then all of a sudden my physical health got better. I made more money. And I noticed I'm like, oh, I'm actually I'm having more fun. Is that common?
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's like you said, it's important to really focus on different areas, because I've definitely seen guys that are, like top athletes. I'm in the jiu-jitsu world. I practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And like, I've seen some of these top black belt competitors that, I mean, they look like a god and like, they're just in incredible shape. But if there's sexual insecurity there, like it actually impacts the way they're able to perform in their competition. Like it actually can hold them back. Whereas I've seen the guys at the top that like are also badasses in bed, and they're just totally killing it, and there's nothing holding them back. So I've in like personal experience with this too. So
Good for you. Good for you.
Yes. But it's definitely like all parts of our lives are connected. You can't just like segment and be like, okay, I'm going to be great in business, but not great in bed. I'm going to be great athletic wise and eat really healthy, but not be good in business. Like, it's important to have all parts of yourself be congruent.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. So how do we, so, I mean, I think this information is going to apply to ladies too. I think it's good for women to hear this. I read My Secret Garden. It was mostly for women, but it's good information for me to know, right? So, what do you, what are some practices that guys can put in place? Like, what is something that we can do to improve? Imagine you're a guy like me, and I'm in quarantine, no partner. One of my fears might be, you know what? I haven't gotten any in a while, and I'm gonna get back out on the field, and what is that gonna be like? Oh no, I'm nervous. Am I gonna be able to perform? And yeah, like how do I get better even though I don't have a partner right now?
So yeah, definitely doing your self practice is really important. And I always have guys train on their own first, because while you'll find women that are like wanting to explore with you in Tantra or BDSM or kink or, whatever it is, like, it's really hot when a guy just gets into bed and like he already embodies it. He already knows it, and you're not having to be like have him train on you. So that's why I have guys train on their own first. So it's always
That's my Tinder profile. I was like, want to practice? I
like,
may not be any good, but I'll try.
no, not going to get you anywhere.
That explains the results I've been getting. Okay.
But if you put on your Tinder profile, tantric activation certified, then you may get somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So definitely learn on your own first. And what this is like, it's not like positions. It's not knowing certain techniques, right? This is like literal embodiment. So every time you do these practices, you are more and more embodying this energy that's there. And that is what is so powerful. And when you have sex with somebody and you show up with that energy that you have cultivated in yourself, it just is like it knocks women out. Like they've never experienced anything like it before. I remember the first time I had sex with a guy that had been doing Tantra for a long time. And I was just like, what the fuck just happened to me? Like, it literally changed my life. The path that I am on now is because of that experience. And so it wasn't about like what move or what technique or, how many times did I come? It was about the energy that I felt. And so when guys do this work and develop this in themselves, women absolutely feel it. And you can feel it before you have sex with somebody. Like, I have guys go through a program and then they come to me, they're like, women are just coming out of the woodworks. Like, they're coming, I don't even have to say anything, but they can just feel that the sexual energy has been cultivated, and it's very powerful. It's tangible. So definitely do it on your own. Train yourself in masturbation. I always start with PC muscle strengthening with guys. Like, that's a really important aspect for anyone over the age of 25. You need to have a really strong PC muscle, and it weakens over time. Just like, you stop going to the gym and the other muscles weaken, this muscle weakens as well. So contracting the PC muscle, but then also making sure that you release. So it actually kind of feels like pushing out a fart. So the release is like more of a push out. And that's important because we don't want to just have a tight muscle, we want to have a strong muscle. And so many times people teach Kegels, which is just the contraction without the active release. And that isn't what we're going for here, because in Tantra, you actually want to be able to fully relax, so that way the energy can flow freely. So starting there, working on the open mouth inhale and exhale during masturbation, that will help you start to get out of your head. help you release tension in the body. So that way when you orgasm, when you ejaculate, it's not just like squeezing out an orgasm. So starting with those two techniques, that's pretty basic there.
Well, how do you train PC muscles?
So the PC muscle is found between the root of the penis and the anus. So it's that muscle there. Whenever you are peeing, if you stop the flow of urine while you're peeing, the muscle that you squeeze is the PC muscle. So do that, and then you know exactly which one you're working with. And then do it, I say, like every time you send a text message, do 10 of these PC muscle contraction and releases.
Every time I send a text message.
Yeah, you'll find it's happening a lot, but
I'm gonna be in such good shape.
Exactly.
I've been practicing it like twice a day. It just went up to 50. Can I get sore there? Is that possible?
If you're not doing the release, then you will start to feel tightness. And like I said, that's not what we're going for. We're going for strength, not tightness.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. What else should we know? What else should guys know that all right, so say I'm a guy in quarantine and I do have a partner. What's a way I can improve my sex life in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for people in quarantine with their partner, it can be almost more challenging right now because all of the issues in the bedroom that you were able to ignore before, you can't ignore anymore because there's no other distractions. And the bedroom,
yeah, if it ain't happening now, it's not happening ever, right?
Yeah, the bedroom boredom is showing up, and it is nice. Like some people are reporting like feeling closer to their partner. They're having more time to focus on their sex lives. So that is happening, but overwhelmingly, and we definitely saw this in China after quarantine ended, how people went straight to get divorced. Like divorce rates definitely spiked. So if there are cracks in the foundation of your relationship, they are going to be showing up loud and clear right now. And so going back to the basics of communication, developing trust and intimacy is really important for couples during this time. And if you're just meeting somebody and you're working with them or like talking with them online, then you can do these things too. So there's one practice that I love for couples to do, and it's a desires, fears, and love practice. So you just hold space for each other and ask your partner. The guy can start and ask the woman that he's with, what are your deepest desires? What are your deepest wants? And you want to ask her 7 times, so that way you go to the deeper levels of the subconscious to like really get to her true desires. And it's very important that we don't turn against each other during this practice, that we don't take things personally, but like really just being there to hold space for her. And like no murmuring, no talking. It's literally just, what are your deepest desires?
What if she's like, by the time we get to number 7, she's like, I want 7 dicks.
So I mean,
and then the guy is like, oh my God, I'm not enough.
Then come see me and we'll work on the confidence, the the sovereignty, like not taking these things personally.
Yeah.
All of that. And then you switch. She asks you, what are your deepest desires? And then you move into, what are your deepest fears? Do that back and forth. And then you move into, what do you love about me? And so you get to end up with the whole like, oh, this is what she loves about me. But it's important.
It's a formula. It works. Yeah.
It is. And it is very important that you allow the whole process to unfold and that you don't use anything against each other, because you're trying to build trust so that way you can surrender, have better sex. And if you're just going to sabotage each other, then the whole thing is going to fail epically.
What are some mistakes you see like guys are like wanting to get better at sex? What are like some common things that guys do to get better where you just shake your head and you're like, oh, you totally missed the boat?
Yeah, one of the big things is porn, like thinking that porn is something other than entertainment. I mean, I'm not against porn at all. Like, I know there are plenty of studies that show the value of porn in society, but when guys
Oh,
like,
hang on. I want to know what are these
I,
benefits?
so whenever there's access, like easy access to porn, to sex workers, actually violence, sexual violence, sexual aggression, those rates drop, because there are plenty of men that need a release. And if they're not getting it, then that can manifest in anger and violence. It's not an excuse, but it is the reality of the
Right.
statistics you see. So, that's a big part of it. But it's there, like, really seeing that porn is for entertainment. It's not for education. If you're wanting to be educated about sex, see a sex coach, someone who has real information about this. And so many guys will like watch porn, they're like, oh, I want to be like a porn star, like I want to try out that move or whatever. And then in bed it just doesn't translate. It's like that, it was so choreographed and it's not real intimacy happening. So the biggest thing for guys is to focus on the intimacy, focus on the connection, focusing on presence. In the Man on Fire program, I'm sure you've noticed over and over and over, I'm like training your focus on the sensations that are in your body, like bringing you into your body over and over again. And women can feel that, like when you're with a woman, that will translate into like really being able to focus on her, like being so conscious and so present with her. And that's where she's going to feel seen. Like that's where she's going to feel like her desires have actually been met. And so that's a lot more important than having some fancy technique. I mean, it's not that you don't want to know those things also, like I said, but that's like the basics, the walking of of it all. Like,
Yeah. A lot of porn, I mean, it's for the shot, right?
yeah, it is.
It may not even be a good position, like an enjoyable position. It's just like it looks good on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Is there anything else? Another big mistake you see guys make? Like, all right, I'm gonna get better at this. I figured I'm gonna go down this path.
So a big thing that they do is they get caught up in their head, and that messes guys up. So they start thinking, oh no, like I'm going to ejaculate too quickly. And then what do? They ejaculate too quickly. Or I'm not going to be able to last, or I'm not going to be able to get hard. A lot of guys now are reporting delayed ejaculation. So like they actually are not able to orgasm. They're not able to ejaculate. And so, those things tend to happen. What we focus on tends to actually be what happens more often than something else. So if instead you're focused on like how it feels moment to moment, being in your power no matter what happens, those things will help sex be a lot better than getting caught up and spiraling down the rabbit hole of all the what ifs that could go wrong.
Yeah. What about advice for women in this? You primarily work with guys. What's some good information for women, and maybe even to know about men that would help?
So for women, I mean, women have a lot of the same hangups as men do, a lot of the same things holding them back from having good sex as men. It just manifests in different ways, but all the same psychological, emotional stuff, all the same stuff from family of origin, religion, society. It really does cloud all of our brains. So it's not gender specific. And like what women can know about men is, I mean, all women already know this. Like, this is why women are such liars about sex, is because like the male ego when it comes to sex is so big. And like women have evolved to lie to men to protect themselves because they've had to do that in order to survive. So it's like, that's a thing. And there's a lot of women that find themselves in very serious situations. And so like, that's just what they do. So I guess for guys, no, like women are lying about sex all the time, but there's a reason for it. Even if the reason isn't valid today in this relationship right now, it's like wired into their DNA from, 10,000 years of attacks on women. So women like really need to do their own internal work and to heal, so that way they can also show up in relationship in a really authentic way. So it's deep healing work on both parts.
Cool. What have you seen change with your coaching practice since the lockdown, since everyone's gone into quarantine? What are you noticing that's different?
There's a lot more people that are like, okay, I've started this program and now I'm really going to focus in on it. I have this time. I want to come out of this time having mastered something, and being a master of sex. Like, what better thing is there to be a master of, right? So there's
I'm into it. It's on the list. It's on the list.
Yeah. So that's the big thing. Like guys that maybe they bought the program and then they were busy and it got shelved, and now they're like pulling it out and like really focusing on it. And it's amazing how quick you can get results. There's a guy that joined the program a week and a half ago, no tantric experience, and he's doing practices several times a day, and he's already having orgasms without ejaculation. Like, and this is just, fresh guy, like no experience with any of this at all, but he's just putting in the time, the effort, and he's just like already like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like his life has literally changed in the last week and a half.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that, people are, no one I know personally, but I witnessed this online. People are getting bored or don't know what to do. And I'm going, what is going on? There's so many things that we could get better at, and not for other people, just like for ourselves, like get more connected to ourselves. Things like this, more time to do the things we've been saying we want to do. It's like, I always say, I want more time to read. Like, yeah, time to read, do it, knock it out. Want to get better at sex? Call Sarrah.
Do it.
What are like, what do you sell? Like, what if someone comes, because here's the thing is I only know one thing. I don't know anything. So I'm like curious about what it is that if somebody came to your website, what happens? I've never been there.
Okay. So, if you go to tantricactivation.com, there's two programs that I sell. So Sex Stallion Training and Man on Fire. Sex Stallion Training is 7 weeks. It's all online, privacy of your own home, instant access. Everything's pre-recorded. You just hit buy now, get instant access, and you're in there and you start week 1 immediately. So it's guided audio and guided video to get you through the whole 7 weeks. And that trains in the fundamentals of tantric sex. So like by the end of it, the goal is to have achieved ejaculation, orgasm without ejaculation, multiple orgasms, full body orgasms, and beginning to move your sexual energy through your body. So that is Sex Stallion Training. Man on Fire, which is a program that you're in, it's the 6-month group coaching program where it's live training sessions each week for 6 months. So for 6 months, you get a new practice each week. You get to be there in a group with me, asking me questions about anything that's going on in your love life, your sex life, relationship. And we've just got like this awesome tribe of guys that are very supportive. And then also the practices are really geared towards helping unravel all the psychological, all the emotional components of sex that are holding you back, which is what most people have. It's very rare to come across people that don't have that. So it's like really holistic, all the deep layers of becoming a sexual master.
I like that. All the layers of becoming a sexual master. I feel like that should be a title somewhere. I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna put that's my Tinder profile. That's my Tinder profile. Sexual master.
Yes.
Would you swipe right if you saw that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk about that? What should I have on my Tinder profile besides that?
I think that's good.
That's the one.
I finally swiped right on someone on Tinder for the first time, like in at least a year. I really have not been active on Tinder. And then during the quarantine, I was on there, and there was a guy who lives in New York, and he's a sex coach. But he is, I'm actually in Arizona right now, and he's in Arizona also. And like, so he had super liked me, and it said first thing that popped up, sex coach. And so of course I was like, all right, I got to check this guy out. And so we've been messaging, but that will definitely get you some attention if you put sexual master.
All right.
Trained in Tantra. I think when it comes to those things, like the images are important. I see guys put like the worst images on there. I'm like, seriously, that's the best you have? So
is it them like playing Xbox or something? Or what images are you talking about?
just like bad lighting, or hats in every photo, glasses in every photo, or the worst is where every photo is a group of people and you have no idea which one is actually the guy that you're like maybe going on a date with.
Women are the same way though. It's like, or there'll be one with them with a baby, and then you scroll down, it's like, by the way, that's not my baby. It's like, what are you doing?
I know, guys do that too. It's so weird. I'm like,
oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. And then all the things that people write, fan of the Oxford comma. Like, what the fuck? Like, that really needs to go on a dating profile.
Dude, I have a friend. She will, yeah, if any grammatical errors whatsoever, like whatsoever, out, not gonna happen. I'm like, you gotta loosen up.
Yeah, I mean, because I think most of those things, I'm just speaking for myself, like most of the time grammatical errors are just like an oversight. Like I'm going so fast and, didn't even think, or there's autocorrect or something, right? So like, you have to understand, like people are in an age where we're just moving really fast about everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've yet to go on a Tinder date. I'm working on it though. We'll see. We'll see.
I was a Tinder queen for a while. I had a lot of fun on Tinder.
Really? I don't know. I've matched and I've started conversations with women before, and then as I'm having conversations with them, I lose interest. So I don't know if it might just be me being scared. I'm not scared of dating, but maybe it's something with the app. I don't know.
Maybe it's like moving. Maybe you need to move a little bit quicker, because that definitely happens. Like if the conversation just keeps going on and there's no like, hey, let's meet up. Like there has to be a progression for sure. And it depends on the person. Like some people like to progress faster than others. But if there's no progression, it's gonna just fall flat.
Yeah, I had a friend. She wants to be chatting. She wants to talk for 3 months before you meet in person.
Yeah, and some people are like that. I'm like, I don't have time to chat for 3 months.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we'll leave it there. All right, where can people find you?
www.tantricactivation.com. Instagram is also Tantric Activation. My podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and it is Sex and Sarrah Rose. Sarrah has 2 R's.
Rad. Thanks for joining us today and dropping this knowledge on us. I know all the guys and girls are happy you came on today.
Thanks for having me.